Well, thank you again for joining us here, and so like always, I have my few questions I'll ask, and we'll open up to you guys. So if you have a question, make sure to have your hand up nice and high. It's kind of hard for us to see you out here with the lights. But, you know, I know we've talked about it before, but for those who are in here for the first time, can you kind of talk about what were you know, you were and still are a big monster kid.
Absolutely.
What were the monster movies that kind of really inspired you, that really caught your imagination growing up?
Well, when I was young, obviously I think my brother was very into the classic horror, Frankenstein, all the Universal monsters, obviously. So we would have, in Calgary, in Alberta, we'd have a film night, late night movie, and my brother would make popcorn, and I would watch one of the classic movies with him. And then I veered off more into, when I was young, I was really into a lot of the Japanese Toho films, Godzilla, all the Godzillas were kind of my groove, and all the monsters and things like that. And I also loved Famous Monsters of Filmland, which Forrest J. Ackerman edited and kind of sent around the country for all of us little monster kids to look and get our first view into a lot of monsters just through pictures. And a lot of these films I hadn't seen before, and I was just entranced by all of the makeup and the transformation that some of these monsters took place, and they always looked a lot scarier in picture form than they did when you'd actually see the movies sometimes. But at the same time, the movies were classic and amazing. And so I think I started that way, and then, you know, loved Haunted Mansion, loved all that kind of stuff, and then went from there.
Yeah. And then, you know, as a performer, those still have had a major and have had an influence in your persona on stage.
I have, absolutely. I mean, I think for me as well, I was a very shy, introverted child. I should never have been in the music industry, to be honest with you. It was something that I reluctantly, I think my doppelganger or my spirit guide, which is myself in the future, kind of said, go do that, jump off the cliff. And it was very difficult for me at first. So the monster thing came into play in the sense that I could hide behind a mask. And that gave me a lot of courage and a lot of stability on stage, that people weren't looking at me and how I saw myself, but were looking at a character that I was able to portray. So I guess you could say I have split personality in a way. I don't know. There's probably a lot of issues I was dealing with at the time, but it really helped me get to a place where I could get up on a stage and perform in front of people. And over the last 40 years, I've been slowly kind of removing the mask, if that makes any sense, and taking off the armor. But it was a great comfort to me to have those monsters to kind of hide behind.
Now, you have performed on stage, you know, with your music. You've also acted on the screen as well too. Is there one that brings you more joy than other?
As far as the screen stuff or
either or, yeah.
I really liked this last tour we did. Basically I was trying to figure out a way on how to deal with Skinny Puppy is kind of a pseudo-political band, in the sense that the main theme of Skinny Puppy at the beginning was the idea of a dog who is being controlled by somebody who can really react or fight back and just barks. Mm-hmm. So Skinny Puppy was kind of a way of dealing with that. And this last tour we did, I was looking for a way to kind of deal with what's going on in the world, how I see the world anyway, and how divisive everything is. And I wanted to explore the trope of the other, and the other is kind of the idea of we project our fears, and our fears and our hate, and we project it on something other than ourselves. And I didn't know how to present that trope in the sense of not wanting to pick on one side or anything like that. So I thought an alien would be a good sort of neutral character to use as the other. And so the makeup for that, I think I really enjoyed playing that character. I think obviously my favorite character in film has been Pavi. Pavi was a face-stealing rapist, and when I was first approached with that, I was like, okay, my career's over, because if I'm playing a face-stealing rapist, that's fucking it for me, you know? And yet I really enjoyed the part because there was some mirth and humor within it all, and it wasn't as gory or as disgusting as that, but still I was a face-stealing rapist. But I love that character a lot.
Yeah. And we've talked about Repo a number of times over the years, but can you talk a little bit about being cast in that part and how that kind of all came to be?
Thank you for asking for that. That's a good one. So I was kind of on the outside of the production, in the sense that Darren Bousman, the director, wanted actors that could sing. they didn't want singers that could act, and I guess acting for me at that time, I don't know if I could really act either. So they didn't want singers anyway. So the writers of Repo, Terrence and the other Darren, were very interested in having me. So they wanted me to come down and do an audition, and the producers, I went down and did my audition, and I was sitting there and just sitting outside the studio. It was in a recording studio in Burbank, and there was double isolation doors into the studio, and I was sitting there with my Pavi mask, and I had a mirror. I brought a mirror for my audition, and I worked out this whole background with Pavi, that he came from the region of Pavi in Italy, and he couldn't cry, so he had to wipe away. I had all these little gimmicks figured out, and the thing I had that was my gag was I had a mirror that I was looking into at myself all the time, narcissistically, and in that mirror was a picture of Paris Hilton. So I was sitting there outside, practicing what I was going to do, and I hear all this commotion, and the double doors open, and guess who fucking walks out right in front of me? Paris comes walking by, and she walks by, she goes, "Hi," and I'm like, and then she walks by, and she goes out the doors, and when I'd come in, there's nobody there. She walked out in the street, there's just flashes everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I'm fucked. So I went in, and sat down, or stood up, I should say, and there was all the cast, the writers were there kind of hyping me up. Darren was in the background sitting on the ground. I was going, oh, he hates me. And so I go through my thing, and I sing, and at the end, I'm going, I'm Pavi, I'm going through the whole where I'm from, and I can't cry, so I have to wipe away the tears. I'm doing my whole thing, and then at the end, my gag was, you want to know who fucking Pavi is? You want to know who fucking Pavi is? This is fucking Pavi. And I turned the mirror around with Paris's face, and I was just going, I hope this goes over okay. And the whole place blew up in a big cheer and laughter, and I left that audition. I had a terrible audition for The Crow years before. I was supposed to be Fun Boy. It went off terribly. This one went off stellar, and I left kind of like Mary Tyler Moore. You know, at the beginning of Mary Tyler Moore, and she's walking out and she throws her hat up in the air. I was on Burbank Boulevard, like, just miming it out, and I was just like, I don't care if I get the part. That was a great audition, and then I got the part, and the director, the producers called me and said, we know you're a rock star. We want you to come up a month before and just hang out, and you can't do anything, you can't act out. And I was like, do you guys know who I am? Like, fuck, I'm not that kind of person, but fine if you want to think that way. I'm not Joe Cocker, I'm not a Joe Cocker guy. And then they gave me Bill Moseley's address and email and said, introduce yourself to Bill. And so I wrote Bill. I had never met Bill Moseley before. I only knew Otis and Chop Top, two of my favorite characters of all time. And I was like, Bill, this is Ohgr. I'm your brother. If you want to kick me, push me around, beat the shit out of me, do whatever you want. I'm down for it. And I get this reply back from this Yale-educated man going, my God, what are you talking about? And we ended up, he came up with me to Toronto, and we hung out together as much as we could to get to be brothers. And he was the most wonderful, wonderful advocate for me on the set, and I had an amazing time with that. So sorry for going on.
Oh, that's quite all right. Now, here's something. I don't know if we've talked about this before, or have asked about this before. So, being a musical, for those who aren't in the audience might not know, something like Repo, in terms of the music, is it recorded on set, live, performed, or do you go in the recording studio and then it's lip synced in over?
Yeah. So we started. We filmed in Toronto. A month before, we all met and got together and did a table reading, and then we did all the recording in the studio in Burbank, the very studio that I saw Paris in. It was the same studio. And so we did everything ahead of time, and then we went up to Toronto, and we had this wonderful lip sync coach who worked on, what was the play that the John Waters play? Was it Crybaby?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She worked on Crybaby, and she'd done a lot of theater in New York, and she came on, she gave me the best DVD for vocal training that I've used since then, and she would just watch us and make sure we were lip syncing correctly. And it isn't lip syncing in the same way that you would lip sync, like you just.
Yeah.
It's not like that. You have to literally get on a dry stage and sing your heart out, and keep your lips in sync. Then it looks like you're actually singing, and so that's how we kind of did it, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, the cast that was put together for Repo was incredible. You have everyone from yourself to Bill, Alexa Vega. You had Paul Sorvino, Paris, of course. What was it like working with that cast? It
was stellar. I mean, I've never worked with kind of an ensemble cast before. I've usually just gone in and done things, for a couple of days or whatever, but this was us all getting together. I had cigars with Paul Sorvino at a meeting before I got hired, which I was just sitting there going, I'm in this Hollywood Hills having a cigar with fucking Paul Sorvino? What the fuck is going on with my life here? And he was very kind and very sweet. Sarah Brightman was absolutely amazing. We bonded over my little dog. I did have a blind little Boston Terrier that was a long hair, so it looked like an Ewok or a gremlin, and she loved that. We went out for dinner. Anthony Head was a beautiful person. The whole cast knew they were kind of doing something unique, if that makes any sense, and so there's a lot of camaraderie. And everybody was supporting each other, and it was a very eclectic cast, and I've never been part of anything since, and probably never will again. So. Yeah.
What was in terms of, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this before, any kind of rehearsal schedule leading up into the actual production, and then how much time was the actual production?
We didn't really rehearse per se the physical action. When we got up there, we started rehearsing, and there's some things we had a little bit. I don't know if you guys have the DVD. There's some extras where we're doing a song and dance thing, and the song and dance thing wasn't going very well, and so we had to come in on a Saturday, one day at 6 in the morning or something, to do some rehearsals, and that was the one time we actually did some rehearsals. I have a quick funny story about that, if you want to hear it, about Paris, that endeared me to her heart. She, she smoked a lot of weed, which I smoke weed too, so I'm not denigrating that. I think it was, she always had the best fucking weed. I walked by her trailer going, my God, where is she getting this stuff? And we went in for this rehearsal in the morning, and we were all sitting around in our day clothes and waiting to start. And Paris comes in, and she's wearing gray sweatpants. I remember this because there's you'll see why. And she came in and she had some rice, and she had some fried rice. And she came in, she said hi to everybody, and she was sitting over by the thing, and she was eating her rice, and smelled like just pot. And I was just like, man, how does she do this, And she was eating the rice, and she got up, and when she left, what endeared me to her heart was she was walking away. And I looked at her bum, and she had a little piece of rice stuck between her ass crack, and I was like, I love this girl.
Nice. What was your first experience seeing Repo when it was finished?
First experience was the premiere in Las Vegas, and we all flew out. I think so a whole bunch of people were there. Daniel Ash was there from Love and Rockets, and a bunch of people were there. It was fun to watch. A bit weird because I think you need to give distance between doing performances like that, because I think at that time I was looking at it going, all the things that I didn't do that I should have done. You only have 1-2 takes sometimes. Yeah. And you always have this, shoulda, woulda, coulda on everything. And so I think at that time I was kind of more critical of it, very critical of it, to where I stayed in the back of the theater or went out and had a drink and nervously waited and all that kind of shit. And now I kind of look at it in a different light, because I don't have all those memories. Thank God for a lack of memory as you get older, because it's a silver lining, I'll tell you, a total silver lining.
Let's go ahead and open up some audience questions, and I'll interject every once in a while with some other questions. But right there.
Hey.
Will you talk about your experience playing
The Twin? The Twin was, for Devil's Carnival. It was another, again, Darren Bousman, Terrence, co-production, co-written, and stuff like that. It was a lot more low budget, in the sense we did 2 nights or 5 nights out at in Riverside, California. There's a depository of circus equipment that I think it's one of the touring circus troops, I think, from Los Angeles, but they travel all over the country. So there's this big kind of scrapyard with all of these stuff from circuses and amusement parks and things like that. So that was a lot of fun, going in there and working in there. And then the rest we did on a sound stage. But it was very you know, very low budget and cut and dry, and again, not a lot of time to always kind of one take stuff, and you're done.
And we have right back over there.
So I missed the very beginning, so I apologize if maybe this was already touched on, but I had stopped by the table, talked about the Demonatrix and what you're doing in that, and I'm curious between the costuming there and your iconic looks on stage, what do you do to prepare to emote through all of those looks?
And thank you for mentioning Demonatrix. I should mention that too. So I just had the opportunity to play an incubus in a movie called Demonatrix that was being produced by a guy named Voltaire, who's a musician, a really nice guy. I hadn't met him before. I'd heard lots of rumors about him as being kind of you know, a bit of yeah, exactly. Well, not a freak, but there's somebody. He's very sexual. Let me put it that way. And it was all consensual and stuff like that. But there's a lot of stories about him. But he's just a lovely, lovely gentleman. And they hired me to play the incubus. And so it was a full suit. It was designed by Norm Cabrera, one of my favorite makeup artists. He's worked on Star Trek, on the Star Trek movies. He does a lot of aliens. He did my alien mask for this last tour, which is what kind of got me into doing this job along with Voltaire. The suit that I was in for that was all-encompassing. It was a full, in fact, on the final day of shooting, when I got back to my hotel, I threw up because it was so hot. I had to be kind of butterflied out of it at times. So I'm totally disappeared in this character, which I love more than anything. And as far as emoting through, I don't really know what the point or what the, I mean, I don't know what the process of doing that is, but there are people that can push through makeup and make it kind of themselves. And I mean, I'm not trying to blow smoke up my ass, but maybe it's because of performing with Skinny Puppy for so long and playing behind masks for so long. It's something that comes kind of second nature to me, I guess. Paul Sorvino and Repo said a really nice thing about me when we did a press conference out of the blue. Much the same as what you're saying. He said that I could really push through the mask and emote, and so I don't know how I do that really. I don't know. It's just something I like to do because it's just when I look at myself in the mirror. When I was putting on this incubus, it's a fucking great costume, and the face, it's not my face. It's not even remotely like my face. But I was like, please put this face on me because I don't want to see my fucking face anymore. And I just love being in the makeup. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. If you really love what you're looking at, you start working with the makeup and you start finding your way from there.
Going off of that, so in terms of the masks for when you're on tour, what is that kind of process in terms of coming up with the designs and looks for each one?
Interesting. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger in the sense of making things that were too all-encompassing, so I couldn't sing, or I mean, you learn by error, I guess, and then you have to kind of follow through on tour if you make a mistake. And so what I came to really realize was when I was first starting in Skinny Puppy, my art mentor, who kind of adopted me in Vancouver, enrolled me in a mask class, and I thought she knew I was very shy. And she enrolled me in this math class without telling me anything about it. And so I was going through it, and you start with a single form, just a single almost self-entity, and you move out from there, and then you develop a half mask. You go from full mask to half mask, and then you develop a voice, because now your mouth is free. And when we got to that point, I kind of lost the plot, because these people I was working with were so fucking good. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was just like, this is way too much for me. So I left and I bailed on it and came back and apologized. And then Myra told me that she actually enrolled me in this professional touring company in Canada. Yeah. They were all professional. I came back and I apologized to them. I said, I don't know, I couldn't keep up with you guys. And they said, well, we don't know how you do what you do on the stage. And I was like, okay, so there's some cross-referencing with this. And I think, you know, I think masks for me, when I got to the place in the tour, or in touring, I realized that half masks were the way to go, because then I have full access to my mouth and things like that, and then, you know.
Cool. Another question out there? Yes, right there in the middle, and then I think you have one here in the front, or no? Yep. Yeah, we'll get you next.
I was wondering if you could talk about the difference between writing lyrics for Skinny Puppy versus Ohgr.
Skinny Puppy was a project, obviously, a lot more dissonant, and the vocals were treated more like an instrument than actually a vocal per se. So in a lot of ways, Skinny Puppy, at least for the first number of years, was a lot of instrumental music with a vocal that was placed over top afterwards. And when we started writing Ohgr music, I learned, again, working with a different producer, that when you're writing vocal songs, if you're writing a song based on a vocal, the music should conform with the vocal. So the difference between the two is that in Skinny Puppy, we overlaid vocals over top of existing, almost mixed material in a way. Or not, just pre-mixed before going into the final mix. And with Ohgr, we would take an idea, if we had a bass line and a drum track, and that would inspire a vocal. And then the vocal would lead to actually rewriting the music around that vocal to support that vocal, if that makes any sense. And I think I learned that lesson then, that if I'm doing vocal music, the music supports the vocal, as opposed to the vocal being an additional flavor to an already existing piece of music.
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah, so being in entertainment and being a musician, being an actor for all these decades, how has that allowed you to grow as a person? And also, what Skinny Puppy song do you hold most near and dear to you?
Well, Skinny Puppy song I hold most dear and dear would probably be Warlock, is one of them, because it was one of the simplest recordings I've ever made, and had, I think, the most kind of profound effect on me for its simplicity and its meaning. I think in a lot of ways there's a lot of Ohgr stuff that I feel the same way about. Baloo and Smothered Hope I still have a strong feeling for, because it was the first thing I ever did, and I think the idea for me within Smothered Hope is, withered rope, you hang what's empty, can't remain, to put it simply. In time, cry the hollow words, to sing with false disguise. I still fucking love that, and I don't know how I came up with it. And I also thought, as far as you're talking about getting older within this, when I was young, I thought I didn't have the right to sing that. Like, withered rope, you hang what's empty, can't remain, to put it simply. In time, try the hollow words, to sing with false disguise. I'm like, I'm too young to sing that. And so I feel like I've aged into it now, if that makes any sense. And I feel like that's another kind of Harry Potter thing, in the sense that there is a version of me in the future that was channeling those lyrics to me in a way, and telling me that you're going to be okay, in the future. This is going to resonate more in the future than it does now, which it kind of has in a way to certain people. It's lived on, and it's also given me a great deal of hope that my career would continue on as it has, luckily, to now. As far as what this has given me, I can't tell you the fucking gift you've all given me, as far as a personal journey. And I say this to all of you in the sense that I wouldn't be here without you. And I mean that from the bottom of my fucking heart, because I was a very shy person again, and the support that you all gave me at a time when I was struggling, and I put it all on the stage, it's what really got me through and got me to where I am today. And it's made me a better person, it's given me confidence, it's really changed the arc of my life. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Hey, I wanted to ask about the voices that you did for Pavi and The Twin, and sort of the, development process that went into that, whether it was all you or some advice.
It was definitely advice, in the sense that Terrence, like, I went in for the rehearsals, and I do more of a Burroughs cut-up thing when I record vocals. Sometimes I'll be layering stuff down. Sometimes I do things in one take. Sometimes it's a lot of cut and paste and stuff like that, and punching in. And so when I went in for the Repo, when I went in for the first rehearsals, they had a piano there, and they were saying, give us a standard that you can sing, and we'll play it. You can say, I'm like, I have no fucking clue. I go, Smothered Hope, what the fuck? And so I was just like a blank slate. And so then we started talking about the character, and they wanted me to do something in a high voice, and I was like, they wanted it to be falsetto. and Italian. And so that was the joy for that for me, was being able to work and sing in a falsetto, because I'm not really a baritone or a deep voice. That's just what I thought I was when I was younger, and so I destroyed my voice by singing like that. But I'm actually more of a tenor, and so to be able to sing in falsetto, a broken falsetto too, it wasn't a nice falsetto. It was supposed to be like totally fucked up, like I'm trying to sing opera but I fucking can't sing opera, which was even more fun, because then it's just open territory for fucking shit up, right? And so that was a lot of fun. It allowed me to stretch from way down here to way up here, if that makes any sense.
And we have time for one, maybe two more questions. There.
Hey, this is going to be kind of an oddball question, but have you ever had formal dance lessons? Because your moves, I mean, seriously, your moves on stage are very unique, and your choreography, you know, you have a very unique style.
Brilliant question, and because it just leads to something that I don't tell too many people. So when I moved to Vancouver from Calgary, I was a bit feckless. I had no idea what I was doing. My father died about a year after I moved there, and he was 58. And so I really didn't know what I was doing in life. I just moved out there. I had to get out of Calgary, and so I moved. And I was living on the North Shore. I tried to be a mobile disc jockey, where I do weddings. I went out once to Chilliwack, BC, and I did a New Year's Eve party, not knowing it was the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police New Year's Eve party. And I was on mescaline, and I did the party, and I was just freaking out the whole fucking time. And then I left, and I was driving away in my little Mazda. It was this fucking old Mazda that would backfire whenever I took my foot off the gas, like really loud, like shotgun loud. And I was driving out of town, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and there was flashing lights behind me. And I was just like, and I went out, and we got to the edge of town, and they stopped and flashed their lights there. They're just escorting me out of town, right? So that was one job I did. The second job I did, getting to your question, I'm sorry for being long-winded, was I taught ballroom dancing at Arthur Murray. And I went in there, and this is when I was doing shitloads of ecstasy and MDA, and again I had the moves, I guess, because they started teaching me to be a professional competing dancer with them, and yet I'm just like high as fuck. And you know, we had to, every Friday we'd have a dance social, and it felt a bit like prostitution, because there was a lot of lonely ladies that would come in, and they'd be dancing with you, and their hands would start slipping down a little bit, a little creepy. And then there was one weekend that I partied a little too hard, and it was Sunday, and I was laying upstairs with a group of people in my apartment, and there was a buzz at my door, and it was the people from the Arthur Murray dance studio, and they're like, "Where the fuck are you?" And that was the last time I heard of them. It's too high to respond.
Cool. All right, one more?
I'm going to steal the last one. The Devil's Carnival is probably my favorite one that you've done.
Thank you.
And with the twins, and the ending of the movie leaves it open possibly for a sequel. If they ever continued that, would you be willing to come back?
Oh, hell yeah. In a heartbeat, for sure. I mean, they're wonderful people to work with, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat. I think I'm probably going to be too old to be Pavi unless I have some geriatric version of Pavi at some point in a wheelchair or something. I steal faces and I don't rape anymore, though. God damn it.
Well, well, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Always awesome to see you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Ohgr!
Thank you all very much. You guys are the reason why I'm here. Thank you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.